This show contains language that, if you were at a conservative church, you may find objectionable or not appropriate. But seeing as this is not a conservative church or a church of any kind at all, anything goes. The language is part of the discussion, and if we hold the language back, we're not going to have the same kind of discussion. So, be warned.
This is Reef Beef.
My name is Rich.
My name is Ben.
And on today's episode of How the Reef Beef Beefs, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about bog lights. We're going to talk about a new fan, a relay, how you clean your pumps, a correction. Jonathan complains, RODI, and a big tank update, maybe even more. This episode is sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com.
Champion Lighting and Supply also.
Yeah, and powered by PolypLab. This is Reef Beef. Oh my God, Ben. Ben, it's like the thick of summer. Are you as distracted as I am?
I'm always distracted, so
Yeah. Okay. I'm a little more distracted because we had Reef Retreat, right? So that was distracting. And now I'm going on vacation with my family. Oh, poor
cool.
me.
Oh.
Oh, we're going to Fiji and Tonga.
I won the lottery. Be sorry for me.
And then I have to go to Panama for a secret octopus thing.
Oh,
So I'm a little scattered, and the kid's home. So and I have aquariums, and I'm starting to plan for the spawning. So yeah, I got a lot to get updated on and make some video. I know I said that before, but I really mean that. There's some cool shit going on with the spawning. So
what do you got?
Well, I set up a huge blue tub under the house. I had that flat that is now under the house. It's still there, but it's too hard to get to because it's under the deck now. So right almost directly behind me, there's a much easier one to get to. And I've laid out all of my settling tiles, and I've inoculated them with CCA. And I'm going to let those grow out. And then as we get closer to the spawn, once they get covered in CCA, I'm going to freeze their asses.
Did you use CCA from your own system, or did you go get it from somewhere?
Both. I bought some of that stuff, the blue helix and the pink helix, I guess it's called.
You did?
Yeah, I did that once last year, and it seemed to really work, actually.
Not to distract, but just real quick, it's crazy because I did it multiple times and it had an absolute effect a couple times, and then I did it another couple times. It didn't seem to do anything. But I hadn't touched it since. I was just interested to hear it brought up again.
I think it's got to do with where you get it from. I ordered it directly from Algae Barn, so my assumption is that it's the freshest. You know, if it's been sitting on some shelf, maybe it's not so great.
Here is my super weird experience. The best that it ever did to me was when my friend Chris Obergas with Unlimited Color Corals in Houston gave me 6 bottles because they were expired.
Yeah.
Those were the ones that had the greatest impact that I saw. So I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, maybe the older ones are better. I mean, who knows? All of the, welcome to the reefing world. Someone do a study. Yeah, that's going to happen. But so I used that, and I also collected a bunch from here, from the tank behind me, as I scraped it off the glass.
Oh, cool.
And I'll do that again in a month or two, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to have that space. And there's 2 tanks in the laundry room back here. I'll have to clean out. They're bombing, by the way. If you want just like a tank with coral, man, just put a bunch of shit in it and leave it the fuck alone. And holy crap, it starts to look good.
Yeah,
just stuff.
Yeah, when you quit screwing with stuff, it grows.
Yeah, you just give it good water and good flow.
Yeah.
Flow. Oh God, I found a new wave. A new wave action that I like.
Is it specific to a certain pump, or?
I'm gonna play with it a little more before I tell y'all what it is and how to do it.
Secret. That's what Richard gets on.
I actually hate doing that, talking about what's coming up, but it's also kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much going on in my heads.
You're just a big T.
I'm a big T. So there. Anyway, what's going on with you, baby? Show everyone your hair.
Uh-oh. Look, okay. So
Did you,
this is
lo-
what we're dealing with now. Okay.
did you lose a bet?
No, it's male pattern baldness. It just flew out. No, I don't know what happened. You know, I started growing my hair out in COVID during COVID, and then it just got longer and longer. And it's just one of those weird deals where I woke up, looked in the mirror, and I was like, nah. And then before I could change my mind, I went in. I told the lady that was cutting my hair, I was like, just save me the ponytail. And then when she about to cut it, and she's like, we can't go back. I was like, do it, do it. And she sliced it, and I was like, all right, this is can't go back.
So basically, you got gender affirming care,
Yes,
and now you have more hair more in line with your gender.
whatever that means. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even
Exactly. Whatever that means is the right answer.
it's so funny though, because my little son, like, I don't know, little kids just like say stuff without, they don't know that have the impetus for like why but he used to say like, Dad, you look like a girl. And I'd always tell him like, dude, boys can have long hair. Like the length of your hair has nothing to do with your, boy or girl. And, he was always saying that though. I was just like, dude. And now he's growing his hair out. So get off it.
Hit him. And this is a very exciting day because you have the chest hair in plastic to show everyone, right?
I'm so sorry. I will let everybody know that I'm dragging my feet on my project, and I apologize, but I will get it soon.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
getting
Uh-huh.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay, I got a pen.
saltwateraquarium.com. Saltwateraquarium.com. Yeah! Saltwateraquarium.com. Saltwateraquarium.com. Do you know the owner of saltwateraquarium.com, Kenneth? I see him deep sea fishing from time to time. He catches some cool fish. So good on you, Kenneth.
What a great story.
It is a great story. And
I
that's
like-
what he spends his money on for his ad space.
I like your Texan song.
Yeah.
Let's see. Saltwateraquarium.com. They have been supporting us since before we were us. And some of the things that we like about them, they have free shipping on all orders over $39, free returns with the year return period, 5% military and civil service discount, and you can get some cash back. You can play that game. Right now, they seem to have a lot of the Hannah stuff on sale. So go check that out on their website. That's in the new the what's new section, and they're having a big sale. So go check them out and tell them we sent you because we like
Saltwateraquarium.com.
There you go.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay, I got a pen.
Let's talk about reef stuff. I think the big one we're going to get to, big practical today, is RODI, but we'll get to that. That's coming. We'll talk about DI as well. But you were going to tell me about, what were you going to tell me about?
The
Something.
relay.
Oh, the relay.
Yeah.
So tell us what relay and what about it.
So we're going to link it down below, this relay that I use. It was shown to me by someone in our Discord, and it's what you use on like a Neptune Apex if you're wanting to plug in something that uses a lot of electricity that might be a little tough on your Neptune.
Or if you want another controlled outlet by the Apex.
Yeah.
You plug this thing into one of the other ports, the one with the two little holes. I forget what that one's called. And all of a sudden you get another relayed
it's the little
Apex controlled
the
four pin one.
Clip.
Yeah. And then you get another outlet that can comes off and on. And the EB832s can only take so many amps. So what I'm using it for is I needed another outlet. So I just got one of these relays. And what you're using it for is to use power that's not coming through the EB832, but the Apex is controlling that outlet. So you have a big chiller or something, and then it takes wall power instead of the EB832 power.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a 1 horsepower chiller, possibly bigger on a 600-gallon aquarium. And I felt, I don't know if that's correct or not, but I felt that much voltage or wattage or whatever you want to call it going through a Neptune might not be good for the Neptune. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, you can look up, and I always think people should look it up. The power draw that can come through the apex. I think the most that any single outlet can take is 1500 watts. I could be making this up. I'm not going to look it up right now.
And it's like a specific receptacle. I think,
Yeah,
if I'm not wrong, it's like number 8 where they have it divided out.
Yeah, you have to look it up for which one you have. For the EB4, it's different. For the EB8, it's different. For the EB832, it's different. I mean, I could take the time to look it up right now to tell you.
And I think
might as well.
Amp. If I remember correctly,
It's amps.
It can take like 12 amps, I believe.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting. So you plug it into the wall separately from the other stuff, and then what attaches it to the Neptune is the 4-prong. I wish I could remember what that receptacle is called on the Neptune. Is you just get the cord and plug it from the Neptune, and you have a bare cord, and you plug that into this relay. And so all it does is the box itself, the relay itself, handles the power to the item, and then but the Neptune connected by the 4-pin thing, it just tells that relay whether it needs to come on or not. So
Yeah.
it saves all the wattage from going through the Neptune, but it does control the box.
Right. And the EB832 can take 15 amps combined or 1500 watts total. So if you're pushing something that's 1000 watts through the EB832, you're getting kind of close to maxing that thing out. So you want to pay attention to that. And something that's such a big power draw, it's always a good idea to put it on its own relay if you can.
I mean, not to mention it's a 600-gallon aquarium, so they already have tons of lights. They have heaters in the deal. So if everything came on, like that's gonna fry that thing.
Yeah, and to mention Adam Stouty, who gets on me for being not prescriptive, meaning I won't tell you what to do. I often feel odd about telling you what, looking up the max load on your EB832. You should know, it's teach a person to fish rather,
Yeah.
I know it gets annoying because I'm just not giving answers, but then it took me 12 seconds to look up what it was. It'll take you 12 seconds, and then you'll find out a bunch of extra information as well. So,
yes.
So you got the relay.
and I have several of them out there, and I forgot on the very first one that I put out there. It's that 8 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot tank in the second floor with the filtration shack that's attached to the house. So there's a chiller in there. So that tank, since it's sort of the filtration is in that shack outside of the house, it's a little bit more, even though that shack is built well, it's a little more subjected to like outside extremes and lows in temperatures than if you just had the tank wall in the house. And so I put that relay on there again because, I had to put a chiller on that system in the shack. And I had experienced something a couple months down the road after putting that first one on there where it popped a couple times, the relay. And then when the relay pops, I guess when it gets overloaded or it's coming on and off too much, like I said, it's a good cheap relay. It's about $40. I know there's more expensive ones that you can get that protect themselves a little better, but this one, if it comes on and off too much, it will pop off, and it'll do that by making the on-off toggle switch look like you forgot to turn it on. It'll pop to off.
Oh, okay.
And so that could confuse people. Well, I told our Discord, and Zach Alligator.
Yeah.
Our
Zach's
friend on
great.
there,
He's great.
super smart dude. And he said, "Oh, well, I have a relay on mine." And so I did this coding. And all it is I went into the, advanced on the Neptune that controls the temperature, and I just gave it a defer. So defer 2 minutes. So somehow we'll get this in the link. I'll share the code with Richard, and Snowman will put it in somewhere where you can see it if you're doing something like this. It's just like if temperature greater than 79 on, and then immediately it says defer for 2 minutes, because what this relay was doing was coming on and off too much, and it just goes, nope, and clicks off.
So the defer makes it not change state for
Just
2
chill.
minutes.
Yeah, it's just like hold on a second so it's not overworking itself. And
Yeah.
2 minutes ain't gonna hurt anything. Like if it wants to come on, it's like, well, we'll just wait for 2 minutes, and if you still want to come on, we'll let you on.
Exactly. And you can do things like the defer statements are really useful. You can have your skimmer defer a few more minutes after feeding and all kinds of things like that. But a lot of times it's used to stop things from cycling too quickly. I love you learning the apex and getting more into it, because the first statements are pretty interesting.
Man, and also how it can protect your butt, because so what happened, this client is super cool. It's a 600-gallon aquarium. I first noticed something was going on Friday night. Guy got an alarm that his temperature had gone past the set point, and I go into his Neptune, and he was bouncing between 78 and 79 like perfectly for months. And then on Friday night it broke loose and skyrocketed towards 84 degrees. So what sucked is it's like 11 at night, and it's like, I'll keep tabs on this a couple times, and then I'm going to go to sleep. But I didn't think, like, you got to make judgment calls. Like, how am I going to wake some dude up at midnight? Like, would I want to know? Could I even get a hold of him? I have no idea. But it felt like a thing where I was like, let me look at it in the morning, and hopefully wasn't a big deal. So I looked in the morning, and it had crested just before 84 and was coming down, but it didn't come back down. And I was trying to think to myself, did the chiller break? Did the relay break? Did the temperature probe land on one of the heaters? Like, what is going on? So he went out, I called him, he went out and checked it. And so he said, hey, it looks like you might have forgot to turn the relay on when you were here last. And I was like, I wasn't defensive, but I was like, I don't even touch the relay. There's no way. I don't touch that toggle. And so I brought up the Neptune, and it showed I hadn't even been there in a week and a half, and it showed that bouncing 78, 79. And then all of a sudden on Friday, and I was like, there's no way it had anything to do with me, because I hadn't been there in a week and a half, and then it decides to run up. So it's like it gives you that information to protect your butt, because otherwise it looked like Ben had his head up his ass and forgot to turn something on. And the funny thing, how we overrode it is I said, well, just physically unplug it from the wall, give it a minute or two, and plug it back in. Well, that reset the relay. It came back on. And like I said, and I admitted to him, I said, hey, I know I have this little chunk of code that I can throw in there. I think I was like a little bit lazy to put it on yours, but now is the time to do it. So it's so cool. I went into my other client's Neptune, just from my phone.
Yeah.
Copy pasted her defer statement, and then I went back over to his, and I copy pasted. I turned his from the control from chiller to advanced, so it would let me make some statement.
Yeah.
And I just posted that copy and paste that defer statement, and now it's not going to happen again.
It's great. I love that code like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been knee deep in code myself with all the things I've been moving around. So.
Well, now when I'm telling my head, it doesn't happen that often, but this is Texas, so from time to time on systems, we would use a chiller here, and I just got to, if I do a relay, like the next thing I do is put that code in there, because eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah. And you only know when you know, and you can only do what you do, and most things work. I do love that the Apex, first of all, let you know there was a problem. Did you check to turn the heater off so the heater wasn't like set to 82 or something by accident?
Yeah, or if his heater had shit the bed or something like that. But it's sort of tricky, because his filtration is in an enclosed room in the garage, and then his aquarium is on the other side of the wall in his den, and it's a quite large. It's an aquarium that's almost the size of a car, but and so we don't do much with heating, besides the fact that there's not off-the-shelf heaters that I'm going to be able to use on a 600-gallon aquarium. So we have like minimal heater. I think I have like 1,000 watts of heating.
God, it was just Texas heat that was raising the temperature. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, by the way, the EB832, each outlet gets a max of 7 amps. So you probably couldn't have put this chiller on it.
But there's usually one outlet that handles more.
No, correct? That was on the EB8 and the EB4.
But not the Pro?
It's each outlet is 7 amps, period.
Huh. Okay.
The total must not exceed 15 amps or 1500 watts. So there you go. Yeah, on the EB4 it was outlet 2, I believe, that had that you could put more amps through. But now there it is. And that's another reason why you always want to check this stuff yourself with the equipment you've got, because we're right 62% of the time, maybe 82%. Apex saves Ben's ass. I love it.
You got to use technology. I mean, the old Ben years ago would have just been shown up to a fried tank or wait for a client to say, like, the tank doesn't look right. And then I'm running around dealing with emergencies. But
yeah. And so it was just the relay doing what the relay's supposed to do. And now you've even made it better. I love it.
you could probably, there's probably a more expensive relay out there that can take that coming on and off a little better, but I don't know how necessary that is if you just get a $40 relay and plug in some coating to your Neptune to protect it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it doing that anyway. I mean, you don't want your chiller coming off and on every 2 seconds. The other way you can deal with that is the differential. You can see what the differential is set to on the chiller itself, and that's what tells it to turn off and on. And if it's like 0.1 degree, it's going to be cycling all the time. So
that's what I know we've kicked this horse, but when people can do that with heaters as well, and those the newer Inkbird ones, because people want to make this tiny band, and even though that sounds cool, it's just like you're taxing the shit out of your equipment.
Yeah, and that comes and goes. 15 years ago, that was the big talk in the controller world for aquariums.
How tight can we get this?
How tight can you do it? And it was like, don't do that. And then it gets quiet for 5, 8, 10 years. And then all of a sudden people are like, why don't we shrink this differential? And it's like, there are reasons.
Well, that's the same thing with algae.
Right. It's everything.
And nitrate and phosphate. People are like, how do we get rid of nitrate and phosphate? Now people are like, hey, do you sell nitrate and phosphate in a bottle? I'm like, the fuck are we doing?
And there was some thread going on about someone discovered. They were like, I don't know, phosphate may be more important than we think, and we may not have to. And
we're in the corner going like, fuck me.
Yeah, now I'm kind of I enjoy it that it's like, oh, let's reinvent the wheel, but you have to, right?
Yeah.
You have to reinvent your own wheel. It's
yeah, but that's like Christopher Columbus discovering America, right? It's like, okay, this shit was like, here and there was people here, but whatever.
It also feels like, you could read some stuff.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. The whole phenomenon is interesting.
Fair enough. Discovered for, well, he didn't even discover America, but discovered for Europe, whatever.
For whatever.
If Europe didn't see it, it didn't happen.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay. I got a pen.
Champion Lighting and Supply. Ki. Champion Lighting and Supply. Ki. That's a C form in karate.
I love the Ki too, because that's some kind of Texas kiop.
That's how you pronounce Ki in Texan.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know that. And all of this is about Champion Lighting and Supply.
Absolutely.
We love Todd. Todd is he really cares about the industry and he knows what's going on. And the coolest thing, every time I bring it up, I'm going to bring it up because I think it's awesome. They are stuffing their boxes not with plastic, not with styrofoam, unless there's an emergency. They use recycled cardboard. Todd bought a machine that grinds up the cardboard and it makes it for the packing. So the stuff that he was going to toss in the recycling anyway gets used as another life. So why more companies aren't doing stuff like that, I don't know, but I'm certainly going to support the ones in our industry that do. And that's Todd Krunkel at Champion Lighting and Supply.
PI.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay. I got a pen.
There's a bunch of stuff going on here. I'm trying to think of all the things that I've done that are crazy. I cleaned some pumps because they got really dirty and makes a real difference. You know me. But now I've got that pump under a rock, so it's not getting light on it anymore. because I hate cleaning pumps. But, you know, it's a thing some people like to do. Oh, I got a new exhaust fan for behind the tank.
Oh yeah.
I got a 6-inch inline fan, but it's got dynamic controls.
Yeah, but was it AC Infinity?
I got the AC Infinity one.
Okay, that's the one I used. Those are great.
Yeah, I got another one at first and it didn't do the dynamic stuff. And so I sent that one back and got the AC Affinity. And what the dynamic means is as it gets hotter,
Yeah.
the fan goes on more.
RPM. It raises RPMs.
And the other one, it was like when the temperature, just like an Inkbird, it was like an Inkbird. When the temperature hits 78, it comes on whatever you set the fan to be at. And it's like, that's not right because I want it to sneak up and be quieter most of the time. So it's pretty great. I put it in. You know, the better than the Vornado that's been hanging there for 10 years.
Oh, big time. And they're made for the hydroponic industry, so they're made to be able to handle humid air.
Yeah. And so I ran a line to it and closed it all in, and not a line. I mean, I put a tube on it, you know, a duct.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say too. If you go poking around on Amazon is a decent place to buy them from.
Yep.
They have all the shit you would want. They have the louvered exhaust panels. They have ducting, and it's all from them. So it's like you can get these pieces and parts from AC Infinity.
Yeah. Yeah, and get the PVC duct. Don't use aluminum duct. Aluminum duct will turn into paper that crumbles in your hand when you move it. So
what if that's what you want?
Nobody wants that ever. I'm so excited about this fan. My family thinks I'm an idiot.
No, you'll love it.
It's also got an app. So I like that a lot.
You can get them with or without the controller. It has the little digital controller.
Yeah, I got it with the controller because I wanted also to be able to see what the temp is.
And you can, I believe you can also link in an app. You can link it to your phone as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I can sit there and press it and see what it is. And it's,
I guess it's a lot of the rest of the world gets confused when Aquarius get excited about inline fans and stuff.
Yeah, it's such a dumb thing. And my family was like, what you reading about? You reading about fans some more? You still reading about some fans? Oh, cool, you like fans?
Yeah.
Oh, you're returning another fan?
It's like, your kid's like, Dad, let's bond. And you're like, well, let me finish reading about this fan.
Oh, you know what else is cool? This is cool. Other technology, other hobbies that are like our hobby. So I have this bog over here. Let me move this so you can see the bog a little more.
So I have a pitcher plant as well, and it's been doing good for a while, but I want to get better at it.
I also have some pitchers outside, not some pitchers. Yeah, a bunch of pitchers outside, which are new and crazy. So here's not pitchers, cobra plants. I have pitchers in here. So this was getting some old aquarium lighting and some basic lighting. And I was like, I don't think this is enough light. You know, these
but it's
things,
right by your window. It's also getting a lot of ambient light.
Yeah, but you know, so I hooked up the par meter and it was getting, you know, it's getting like 200 par, which is not that much compared to the sun. So I decided to get a new light. So I'm going to move over here. Can you see that light, or do I have to move?
It's a little bit upwards of you.
Let me hold on one sec.
Richard is adjusting the camera so we can look at his.
Can you see it?
His light. I can see it. It looks like a, you know how they had those black Chinese box lights? Is that like a white one?
Yeah, it's not a box though. It's got like two wings on it so you can point the light. And it's a lot of light, and it's also got a fan in it.
Oh.
So the fan makes it like the wind.
Oh.
On your plants.
You can't have plants without wind.
So it's pretty cool. And I can get a lot more par on there, and I'm sneaking it up as we go. And I just think, you know, that was like $200, I think, for that light. And, you know, at first I was looking and I was thinking, you know, all hobbies are the same, right? They, you know, and there was like terrible videos on the lights for your, you know, And then finally I found some people going, these are good lights. You could try these, or you could try these. And I was like, aha. And again, with the controllability, I have to figure out how to control it, because people who are growing plants want different things than I do. And so it turned out I just want this simple programming. It's same with the AC Infinity. It was like, oh, I just want this easy thing, not this AI thing where it's going to change in the morning. And, I just want it to come on and go off. So anyway, other hobbies have really cool stuff too. You can go way, way deep into the lighting in other places.
There is some intersectionality there, though, because I do know an awful large amount of reef tank people that have been messing around with bog plants.
Yeah, well, my bog is controlled and watered by the Apex.
Huh.
I've got a line that goes from a dose pump. It goes from my DI water, and it fills this thing up, and then there's an optical sensor that I can raise or lower.
Oh, cool.
Raise or lower, and it only gets like 200 mil a day, so it's really hard for it to overflow.
Because
But
I do know, like, if you give them anything other than like really low TDS water, that makes them unhappy. If you gave them like mineralized, they don't like minerals.
Yeah, they don't like that at all. So it's working out well. I'm enjoying it. So there.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay. I got a pen.
PolypLab is the king of polyps. If you got a lab for polyps, call the king. And the king is PolypLab. Why, Richard, why is PolypLab the king of polyps?
Because you said so. So and who is going to counteract anything that Ben has to say?
Nothing.
No one. So we saw Phil at the Reef retreat, and I said, Phil, I want to talk about more of your products. What can you send me? And so he sent me Carbon, the PolypLab Carbon, and it looks great. It looks like a great carbon. So I'm going to start using it, and I'll let you know what I think in compare to what I used to use before, which was the Kohler. And then before that, after that, I've been using the Fritz. But now I'm using the PolypLab Carbon. And if the PolypLab Carbon is just as good, I'm going to, which it looks like it really is, I'm going to start recommending the PolypLab Carbon. So
at some point, you're going to tell us whether PolypLab Carbon is the king of carbons.
The king of carbon. So thank you, Phil and PolypLab, for powering us as the king.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay. I got a pen.
Speaking of RODI, Ben, I know I talked to Farhad, one of the beefers, and Farhad had a RODI question.
Yeah.
And I went, I haven't run RODI in 20 years. So I'm going to tell you to speak to Ben, and then he spoke to you, and then you wrote this whole big thing up. And I was like, well, then fuck, Ben's going to be the expert and is going to tell us everything about RODI. Now I run DI here because my TDS comes out, my tap water comes out at a TDS of like 30.
Wow.
It's
I want to start real quick. I just want to start by talking about something, humility. I think it's important that we all have that. And so what I'm saying is, like, I have been around reverse osmosis deionization stuff for like 25, 30 years. And the weird thing is, this all happened from 20 years ago. I had a client who was a former like fluid dynamics professor, and I was doing a reef tank from him, and he was sort of like a difficult, demanding person. And he had me install an RODI unit at his place, and I had already been doing that for a while, but it's like I had a sort of surface knowledge of RODI, and he started asking me a bunch of questions about it, and he could tell real quick that I was like sort of surface level, and he challenged me to know what the hell I was talking about, and it sort of embarrassed me, and I was like, okay. And so I'd spent like half a year to a year just asking everybody, watching videos, reading stuff, and just went wild with it. And at first, when that annoyed me that he did that, I appreciated it afterwards, because now I feel like I know quite a bit about RODI, but at the same time, I have humility to know that someone watching, when you gather a bunch of people, invariably there is someone in that audience that knows more about that thing than you do. And you could say something wrong or not quite true or whatever. And that's my humility, is when you're listening or watching this, if you have a different take on how I view RODI, like put in the comments here to say what your opinion is, or if I have something wrong or I'm thinking about it the wrong way. But I think what Richard and I were going to do here is sort of like go like top to bottom of how I like to run a RODI.
So I was going to say, because my TDS is 30, and I have copper piping in the house, I run a DI system. So I have a pre-filter, a sediment filter, 5 microns, then a chloramine filter, and then a chlorine carbon filter. And then it goes straight to DI resin. And then it goes to my tank. Now, what other people do who have worse water than me, they go through a 5 micron, a chloramine, a carbon block, and then they go into a reverse osmosis filter. So tell us about that.
And these are all just my opinions. Again,
You've already fucking disclaimed. Now fucking be a goddamn expert instead of a bumbling king.
I tend to run 1 micron mechanical. Because 5 micron mechanical, it's just like, I don't get it. So here's the one big thing about RODI. The big overlying thing is it depends. Bless his heart, but the late great Jake used to always like sort of say from the mountaintops, like, I don't think you need RODI. You cannot say that because there's different quality tap water all throughout the United States. We don't all have the same parameters on our tap water. You have 30 TDS. That's crazy. In your instance, I would just do DI because there's barely any reason to do reverse osmosis on that.
And reverse osmosis is a pain.
Yeah.
You have water being rejected, right? More water gets pushed out than you actually use, right?
Yeah. Well, here's a trick. I think there's a lot of people that run RODI, but again, I say the danger is when you're like people would always say this. I would ask them, if I'm not at their place and they're asking me for advice, to say like, oh, I have too much this or that. And I would say, well, your source water. Well, I'm running an RODI, but in my head, that's one of those things. You say you're running an RODI. Well, you say you're running a car. Are you running it correctly? Because I could go over to your house and check your final product water, and it's like, yeah, you're running a DI, but you didn't change the chlorine pre-filters enough, and the RO membrane is out. And just you saying, oh, I'm running a RODI, then it's like, are you running it correctly? Are you staying on top of it? Are you replacing things? Are you trying to achieve? Are you sure that you're achieving? So if you don't know and you just throw an RODI on something and aren't prompted or don't understand how and when to change anything, like that's an issue.
So what does the reverse osmosis membrane do?
So the weird thing is, I think some people think that all incoming water goes through an RO membrane. It's not like that. Its pressure is put on it and it forces some water to go through it and it rejects a lot of the other water. You cannot 100% force water all the way through an RO membrane. It's just putting pressure to make some of it go through. And I think you could generally say a reverse osmosis membrane is going to reject around 3 gallons to make 1 gallon. But there's so much variable between the temperature of the water coming into there and the amount of total dissolved solids in the water. So that's why I say about. And you can get, if so generally from an RO membrane, you want at least 40 PSI tap water pressure getting to there. I find that they work better when you're getting closer to 80 to 100 PSI, but you can really only get that if you buy this thing called, that's made for it, called a booster pump that you put before the RO unit that takes your tap water line pressure and ramps it up. It actually makes the unit more efficient. It makes the membrane work better. It can drop the rejection rate as well.
So what is the membrane actually membraning?
It's all spun up, and it's like a semi-permeable membrane with tiny, tiny holes in it that is not allowing a bunch of these dissolved stuff that's a little bigger than a water molecule to get through. But So, but let's
and then you run that to the DI, right?
yeah, then that goes to the DI. But before we get to the DI, I want to say, like, people wonder, like, what do those pre-filters do? Because you would, if you don't know much about it, you would think like, okay, well, the mechanical is like stopping like rust in sand and silt from clogging up stuff. And yes, that's what it does. But I think a lot of people think that the carbon pre-filters that, oh, well, it takes out VOCs, it takes out this. The carbon pre-filter's real main job is to keep chlorine and chloramines off of the membrane, because chlorine and chloramines etch little holes. They ruin the holes in the membrane, and that's going to make the total dissolved solids coming out of that membrane go up, which is what you're not wanting. So
Yeah, holes in a filter are bad.
well, it has its own tiny little holes that are semi-permeable. But if you don't pay attention to changing the carbon pre-filters out in a timely manner, what I was going to say too is different municipalities will not just run chlorine in their tap water. There's lots of them out there that run chloramines, because chlorine attached to an ammonia molecule, it's more stable. But for whatever reasons, the different municipalities will just stick with free chlorine and some will go to chloramines. Here's where I came to on that. A chloramine, I would ignore regular carbon pre-filter blocks. I don't use those. I only run the chloramine reducing blocks because they themselves can absorb more chlorine, even if, and I can't go around to every client that I have and try to figure out, like, is your zip code doing chloramines or chlorine? So I just go to I use the matrix with the KX, MATRIKX. Like BRS will have these, like, they're chloramine ones. So all I'm saying is, when it comes to the carbon pre-filters, I would only use the chloramine reducing ones, because whether your municipality is putting chloramine or not, the chloramine one itself will process more chlorine anyways.
Yeah, and some people like to not use that because it's a little bit more expensive.
By a buck or two. And
I know.
my argument on that is, if a buck or two is going to keep you, if you don't stay on top of that, you're going to ruin your membrane, which costs a lot more than a pre-filter.
Yeah.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay, I got a pen.
Beefers. We wouldn't even, I mean, what would be the point if there was no beefers? You people have supported us, and I just want to show you this flower and say thank you so much, and here's a flower for your thoughts. And as long as you demand that Richard and I and Snowman and all the snow people show up and make these things for you, is how long we're going to be doing them.
Yeah. So thank you for all your support. We really appreciate y'all. And we're not just saying that, like Ben was just saying, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be fucking talking to Ben.
Hell no.
Not this often.
Myself either.
Not this often, maybe once in a while, but Jesus Christ,
year.
maybe, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah, thank you. Everyone who becomes a member, that's really a great way to do it. It gets you to the membership part of our Discord. We've got some new merch coming out, and a new small project that's coming out as well. And hopefully the candles will be available soon. I have to figure out how to produce those. And thank you. We really do it for you, the people, because we love you. So thank you so much for your support. We dig it.
Here, write this down. I do have a thing. Okay, I got a pen.
You need to check to see what your needs are. There's no prescription, Adam. There's just what you need, right? And then you have to make decisions based on that. What was for Hod's issue?
It's funny,
he had something leaking, right?
No, okay. So it was so typical, because someone would bring you a problem, and it's like, while he was showing me, I was like, hey, I see 3 other issues.
Right. No.
His main problem was, so on most RODI units, you have this little box that has 4 ports on it that a lot of people are like, I don't know what that thing is. So it's this little 4-port thing that usually sits behind the RO membrane, and you got
4 lines, 4 RO lines, right?
Yeah.
So all of the components of a RODI system are connected with
Quarter
ROD,
inch. Yeah.
RODI line, quarter
Yeah.
inch. So what is that thing with the four? So it's not just a straight ahead. It goes through this filter, goes through that filter. What does that manifold do?
So what it actually does is like imagine a little, well, it's half the size of your fist, but it has 4 ports in it for the RO line. So the first line goes in when the water's all done from the pre-filters and it's trying to go to the membrane. So it goes in one side and out the other. And then the other 2 ports on top of that take the water that's leaving out and then leaving out from the membrane and go through there. So what that port does is if you didn't have one of those and your RO unit is tied to a reservoir that has a float valve on it, once it fills it and that float stops, your RO is still going to keep pissing out water. It'll stop the reservoir from containing the good water, but the RO unit will sit there pissing your water away wherever you have it going and won't stop.
The rejection water?
Yeah.
So it doesn't shut off both. It just shuts off the one. And that means the water is still being used. So what does that manifold do?
So what it does is when that little box, and it doesn't have a meter or anything on it, it's just the way they're built. When it reaches 40 PSI, it will positively shut off that waistline. Without it, you waste water. With it, the float valve will stop, and it'll take like 5 minutes or so. Once
For
it
the
reaches,
pressure
Yeah.
inside your
like the
canister.
whole system.
Right.
And so here's where it gets tricky. And this was sort of tricky for Farhad because there might be, usually I don't see this, but sometimes the port can get messed up after a while. Okay. And they don't even cost that much, so you could put another one on there. But the tricky thing is if there's a leak in any one of those connections somewhere on the unit, it's not letting 40 PSI get built up. So it might not be the little port thing at all. It might just be you pulled something off to do something and you didn't bottom it out on that John Guest fitting all the way. So it's not letting your whole system.
So the problem with Farhad, as he told me, was even when it stopped producing water, he was still producing wastewater and it never shut off. So the first thing to check for is all your RODI line, is all your RO lines seated properly in the John Guest fittings? Have you done a square cut across the pipe so it sits in properly inside of the receptacles, or is something loose? So what did you find something that wasn't connected properly for Farhad?
That was tricky because, and I told him later after I wrote that whole thing in our Discord, and then because where I had gotten to was like, hey man, they're just $10, get another one and throw it in there. And then after I wrote that whole diatribe, I was like, hey, go through your whole unit and make sure you don't push on something and you feel it bottom out. And, but for $10, that could be an easy thing. But he understood it all. And
was that the problem?
that was, well, I guess we don't know yet because Farhad hadn't gotten back to me. But in the course of him showing me, I was teaching him more stuff about RODI. And then I was talking to him about where I like to see inline monitoring of TDS lines. And on his type of system, I want to see 3 TDS readings. I want to see what your tap water is. I want to see what it looks like after the membrane. And then I want to see final reading after the DI. I need those 3 readings for me to properly take care of a unit.
Right. And on my system, that's just DI. I look at the incoming water and the outcoming water because
before and after.
I don't have a membrane to maintain.
Yeah. And the reason I want those 3 points on an RODI water or RODI unit is because I need to know what your initial TDS coming out of your tap is.
Right.
And then I want to see what your TDS is looking like right after the membrane, because that gives me the math. So I know that a Dow Film Tech 75 GPD membrane generally is about 98% rejection rate, meaning if I had 100 TDS coming into the unit. I want to see maybe 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, something around there TDS after that membrane. Because from 100 TDS to a couple TDS, that's that around that rejection rate. Now,
Right. Now that's got to, I just want to make sure we clear this up. And the TDS coming out can be affected by a few things, right?
yeah,
If your-
temperature.
and if your
amount.
pressure's not enough, you won't be able to, because you need to force the water through that membrane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But so, you know, and I can't, again, when people just say, oh, run a RO membrane, and I could go look at their membrane and say like, oh, dude, your membrane's shot. Maybe you didn't replace the carbon pre-filters enough, or how long you been, oh, I've been running this 6 years. Like, that's probably too long.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just put something into place and not like monitor it. Something like an RO unit. You have to keep tabs on it, which could be a pain in the ass for some people.
Yeah. The DI is a little bit more forgiving.
When he was showing me though,
Yeah.
because I told him before I jumped on the call, I was like, I need you to turn your RO unit on and let it run for a while before I talk to you, because I want to see the readings. So I don't want someone to say their RO unit's been shut off and I'm talking to him. I'm like, oh, turn it on and then give me a TDS reading. It's weird. You need to let that thing run for, you know, maybe up to 30 minutes or so before I feel comfortable about believing that TDS inline TDS reading.
That's because when it's been off, the TDS can rise in the lines from something. I don't remember.
It's what we call TDS creep, because here, I remember years ago when I wrapped my mind around this, I was like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So when you stop an RO unit and that water is sitting there, that water will still, with osmosis, you know, say like, you know, it follows that gradient. So if there's shitty water stopped outside of the membrane, and you know, as soon as you stopped it, there was decent water inside the membrane, sending it to good water. That shitty water will slowly move and infiltrate into that RO unit. So then, when you kick it back on, it sends a pulse of high TDS water to that DI, which the DI. The RO unit, the RO membrane is supposed to be doing the lion's share of removal of TDS. DI should be considered polishing off the final tiny amount. You are not hoping for DI to do most of the work of TDS removal, because DI resin costs a fair amount of money. And if you're running through, you know, I talked to Farhad and he said, man, I've been running through DI resin like crazy. And it's like, yo, it's only doing that if you're feeding it too much TDI. So that's TDS creep, when you've shut off an RO unit, came back a day later and like, oh, and turned it all back on, and it sends a pulse of high ass TDS, which takes its little toll on the DI.
How do you avoid that?
There's a number of ways that you can avoid that. I do it manually because BRS sells this thing that looks like a gray T, and it's like a 3-way valve that you can turn. When I first turn on my RO unit, I have this T coming from the membrane to the bottom of the T, and it can either send a line that just goes to my driveway, and then the other line finishes going to my DI. So the second I turn on my RO membrane, I'm sending it to the driveway for like a minute or two.
Is that automatic, or do you have to do that by hand?
You can automate it by that Aquatic Life Smart RO Buddy.
Okay.
And a Vertex used to have a unit that would do that. They can automate that. But when I first turn on an RO unit, I don't want that. That's the TDS creep. I don't want that initial water it's giving me. I want it to clear for just like a minute or two. Then I will reroute it and send it to the DI. That'll make my DI last longer.
Yeah. And I like that there's an automatic version of that. If you're using it where you're having the float switch come off and on and off and on and off and on to fill your RO DI tot.
There's these situations like that where unless you automate it, you just have to take it up when it comes. It's just you're gonna be buying more DI resin.
Yeah, which is what I do, except I change mine, but you know, every 2 months. But I'm not rejecting a shit ton of water.
No, and yours is not, you know, you got to understand deionization. Yours doesn't work off of osmotic change. So it's just taking whatever TDS you're feeding to it. So when you shut it off, there's nothing to flush. It just takes what it gets.
Right. Okay.
But your TDS is so damn low
Yeah, it's
That's
still,
crazy to me.
well, it'd be better if it was coming out at 2. I would definitely save on deionization resin. But the cost for me of wastewater, because we've always been in a drought, and 3 to 1 is a whole lot of extra gallons of water that I don't need to be using.
With a
Um,
booster pump, you can sometimes bring it to 1 to 1, but still,
that's
like if I lived in California, like wasting of water is like pretty not good thing to do.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at. So everything's a cost, everything's a trade-off.
What if you had like an avocado or almond orchard? Then you could feed your reject water to your.
Well, yeah, then you could do that. Then I could feed my reject water out into the garden or whatever. And it's like, oh God, now I gotta do that. And where's that water going? And is that the right place, or does it get distributed? And and with all these things, it's how much of this rabbit are you going to chase? Not down the
Mhm.
hole, it's the actual rabbit now.
Yeah.
What's it worth chasing the rabbit? And for me, with everything involved, it's much more easy for me to not do the DI at all. I mean, not do the RO at all. Plus, that's a more complicated system. Things go wrong. What would So you got to figure out your needs and what you want to do. I've got to ask this. We used to have that little whip you used to put in the line, the restrictor. What is that called, and what the fuck does that do?
So they've had a bunch of different versions of this, and here's another thing that it's related to that's always tricked me out. It's a flow restrictor.
Okay. So you're
So
just clogging the line.
yeah, it was weird. They used to have this one that would fit inside of a line, and it had like a little whip and a little retention thing, and it basically, yeah, it clogs the line to a certain degree, and depending what size membrane you have would determine what flow restrictor you'd want. But a lot of ones have done away with that because it's funny. There's this other thing that has become the norm, but I've never gotten great confirmation how much it matters, which is the flushing of the RO membrane.
Oh,
That
and there's an automatic flush kit too.
now I've and I know a good amount about RODI units, but there's people that know even more. And every time I've asked them, like I've always gotten like, because what it's supposed to do is like before you turn it off, like um nowadays this flow restrictor is usually contained in a bigger sort of thing that has a little ball valve on it, and
Okay.
if you close it uh like at a right degree angle, it's running through the flow restrictor. If you open the little valve, then it's called you're flushing the membrane, and it's letting more water through. Because some people say that, like, here's what's crazy. Some people say like scale and rust and shit will build up on the membrane and you're letting it flush off the surface. But I question that too because it's already going through 1 micron, pre-filter, and then 1 or 5 micron carbon. Like, how is any sediment getting over to the membrane? Is that flush that important? But it sort of doesn't matter because everyone sells a unit nowadays that has it flush, and that smart RO buddy will do that for you as well. But I've never gotten anyone to say, and I still do it on my unit at home out of habit. I'm just not sure how important flushing a membrane really is.
So what do you people out there listening think? Flushing an RO membrane? Yes, no, dumb? Is it throwing the knuckle bones? Is it a mind story? Is it necessary? And how long should you do this? Let us know in the comments down below.
I'm more concerned about, just like I said about TDS creep, when I first turn it on, I don't want that first pulse of water going to my DI. That's what I'm concerned about. I just don't know how important flushing the outside
All
of a
right. So
membrane.
what else did you see? So
Oh,
it could have been a leak. It could have been that membrane. I mean, it could have been that manifold
yeah.
that stops. What is that thing actually called? The
I
four-port
call it
thing?
a four port thing. I guess you could call it a pressure shut off, ATO pressure. Isn't that what they're called? ATO pressure valve?
Pressure. I don't know. I don't know.
Automatic top
It's
off
been a
pressure
long
valve.
time since I've cared. It could be that. Or it could be the membrane. What else did you see
Here
from
was
your hut?
interesting too. I saw right off the bat that, and man, I'm not trying to diss any company. And again, it's my humility hey, if I'm looking at this wrong, please someone tell me. But he had the thing, he was sold the thing where he had two RO membranes piggybacked. Now, I did that for a while and I found that to be useless for me. BRS had made videos about here's a thing you could do, and I'm always, I guess, along with my ADHD, I do this thing where like I'll go too much down a rabbit hole on something just because I'm constantly like, why that? And people are like, oh my God. But if I'm told to do something, I really I think it's necessary. I need to know down to the nitty gritty. Why are you telling me to do this? And so like you'll have an RO membrane, it has a line on one end where the water after the pre-filters is coming into the membrane. Then at the end you'll see two little exits. One is the rejection water that didn't make it through the unit, and then the other one is the water that got processed by the membrane that wants to go to the DI.
The effluent.
Effluent. But
So you can run the effluent from the first membrane into a second membrane.
So you don't run the good processed water to that second membrane.
Ah,
You don't.
okay.
What they're doing is you send the rejection water as the new water into that second membrane. Well, all the experience that I did when I was running that for about 2 years and I had inline TDS monitors on everything, right off the bat, you're sending a little bit more TDS-y water to that second membrane. So you're gonna, it's the averages of the TDS of the water that's going to the DI, you're just upping that average because if you were sending 100 to the first membrane, but then the rejection from that first membrane is sending like 130 to the second membrane, you're just running your resulting TDS up a little higher and just taking more notches out of the DI. And I think if I can remember correctly, like BRS was putting that as saying like, that you can make more water more efficiently for less or something like that. But all in all, I found it to be more of a headache, and it was just causing me to use more DI than what was needed. And here's the other problem is like end users get confused and they just see like, it's that thing like, oh, two membranes are better than one membrane.
Right.
And my thing is like, how do you even know you need two membranes? And what Farhad, because I said, Farhad, get rid of that second membrane. And he was like, thank God. And I go, why? And he goes, this unit to me is so confusing with all the connections. And I was like, you don't even need it. And he's like, I didn't know if I needed it or not. It just looked like the more is better. So it's like, and I felt that was a little deceptive. But it could be like buyer beware. If you don't know what you're buying, that's sort of your fault,
Yeah, and it's hard. There's RODI is used in other industries too. So we are at the mercy of the bullshit marketing they do. So we
I
kind
felt
of
like it was a way to sell more membranes
yeah.
and more DI resin.
Yeah. Well, it's also, the best. If you don't know what the best is and what they actually are saying is the best,
Yeah.
You're relying on them, which I understand.
When you don't know, if you don't sit down with an RO unit and understand like, oh, it goes in here, then it goes in here, then it goes in here, and this is what this does to this, then you just think like, oh, two membranes, that's like double good,
Right.
But it's just sending shittier water to the second membrane, and then you take the good water coming out of both, but that second membrane is causing your average TDS to come up. So what's the fucking point?
What's the point? I mean, you can produce more water, I guess, because you're reusing the wastewater.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say that that's better. But
you have to understand that you're going to take a harder hit on your DI.
Yeah, everything's got a price. It's nothing's magic.
Yeah.
So, anything else you saw in Farhad's system that you said fix that?
Well, I guess I didn't get to this when he was showing me the 4-port thing. I said let it run for a little while, and then I was telling him like, hey, click it to his inline TDS monitor. I was like, click it to 1, click it to 2, click it to 3, and so I saw when he clicked it to 2, which was showing me after his membrane, I was like, dude, it's 69 TDS coming out.
Your membrane's clogged.
And he was like, what's up with that? And I was like, man, it should be like below 10 easily. And he was like, oh, and that's when I started getting into like, how often you change the carbons? And he's like, well, I wasn't sure how often you have to change them. And I was like, it's probably let chlorine through, etched extra holes, and it's just so now you need to get 2 new carbons in a new membrane and start over again. Let me try to address this really quickly too. I always run 2 carbon membranes because it has a lot to do with dwell time. That water coming in and getting rid of its chlorine.
Two carbon blocks.
Yeah, 2 carbon blocks. If I had 1 carbon block, once that carbon block starts to shit the bed, the dwell time is horrible. It's letting chlorine through. Now, so that's why I use 2, because even if one of them was starting to shit the bed, the other one will cover it. But then here's the deal. You would ask, how often do I change it? That's sort of complicated because it's like, how much chlorine does your municipality put into the water that you're getting? Is it chlorine? Is it chloramine? How much does this block say that it can process of chlorine, of chloramines? So I would never do it again because math isn't my thing. But in the very beginning, when I was trying to figure out my own system, and I was like, these carbon blocks that I've decided to use, how much chloramine does it say it can process? Okay, then how much water am I using a day, or how much am I using a week on average? Okay, how long, what span of time would it take me to, this block says it can process 30,000 gallons with chlorine in it. And then how long am I taking to make 30,000 gallons? Well, I don't want to get anywhere near close to it. And the damn blocks don't even cost that much. So I figured out what I do is not even just on my big garage system, but on clients as well. Just change it once every 6 months, all things being equal, both blocks. Change it once every 6 months. They don't even cost that much because you're certainly not getting anywhere near that number. Now, you could get these people that like, I want to take it to the limit. I want to be maximum efficient. That's just crazy because you're talking about $30-$40 worth of carbon blocks. Not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Just take a time where you know you're way in front of the curve, and that's the only way, because people are like, how do I know when to change them? Change them every 3 months, change them every 6 months. Do a little math, try to figure out when, and then be ahead of that curve. And then stay on it, because if you get lazy on the carbon blocks, you will screw up the membrane. And then everything you're doing is pointless. And then you tell me you're, oh, I have a RODI unit. I'm filtering the water, and I'll go to your house and like, dude, you're not.
Right. So check your, yeah, it's kind of like a UV sterilizer. It's not a set and forget deal. Once you bring one of those devices into your life, you got to pay some attention to it.
And I don't think people should feel bad. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I know what I know because I've had to learn it, but take like a 7-stage RODI unit, put on the floor and just stare at it. If you don't know much about it, it's like, what the fuck? It's a lot of tubes, a lot of connections, a lot of, and it's this thing you and I joke about, we went in an aquarium. It's like, man, I wasn't trying to become a wastewater technician.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What is going on?
I remember when I did RODI, 20 years ago, and getting so frustrated at the unit, and there was no good diagram of what each thing actually does. So it was like, my God, you're not even making it easy so I can understand what the hell's supposed to be going on here, so I can understand it.
And with
so
all
much
things.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, and so much of it smells like bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I was going to say.
No, totally that. And that's what I, was talking, like, I always have to ask why. Part of my issue with that is that, and this is a cynical outlook, but I've been a salesman for so long. Like, I get, like, when someone says, oh, you're supposed to put a back flush on an RO unit. Why? Because you want to sell me a back flush thing? Or do I really fucking need to do that? Like, I'm just trying to get to the nitty gritty. What is really necessary on here? I don't want all this stupid shit that you say I need to do. And I'm not calling this stupid shit, but like over the years, like SpectraPure, that's a great company, but their units are quite expensive. And I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. It's fine. Great company. But, they're like, oh, we have like silicone busting certain ones. And it's totally true. Maybe you have a municipality where you have a shit ton of silicates in the water, and that's an issue. I will tell you one thing. There's a weird thing where you need to know if a lot of carbon dioxide is getting passed into your tap water lines. If you didn't have an RODI unit, you're just using your tap water, this would never matter and you would never know. But In some places, you'll get a lot of carbon dioxide that comes through your tap water, and carbon dioxide doesn't get touched by pre-filters. It doesn't get touched by the RO membrane, and it will screw up your DI. It will go through all of that and take down your DI. So what you do is whether it's, maybe whichever way you have to test pH, titration or whatever, but you get some water straight out of your tap and you check the pH. Okay. And then write down what that pH was. Then get some more tap water right out of your deal, put an air stone in it, bubble it for like 10, 15 minutes. Check the pH that. Because if you bubble it, you have driven off the carbon dioxide, which drives the pH down. So if you see a pH difference between your just tested the pH on your tap water and then I bubbled it for 10, 15 minutes, but the pH came up when you did that, that means there's a lot of carbon dioxide in your water. Now, then you would say, oh, well, what are you supposed to do with that? Well, it's sort of a pain in the ass. Either you're just going to have to live with that, like, I'm passing carbon dioxide to my DI and I'm just going to have to buy more DI more often. Or if you want to take it like crazy and extreme, I sort of have to get crazy and extreme because I am making water as a business. And not that I do this. I found that I don't need to do this. But you would, you wouldn't send water straight from your unit to a DI. You would send it to another reservoir and you would aerate that reservoir. Then you would take a peristaltic pump that would run it through your DI into your ultimate reservoir. And that's only if you did some calculations and said there's so much carbon dioxide causing me to replace DI so much that I'm spending $180 more a year, and that's not cool with me. Or you did the math and you're like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm not trying to make this too complicated. I'll just buy more DI during the year.
Yeah.
These are decisions where you just got to do some math and figure out whether that's important to you or not.
Anything else from Farhad's system that you noticed?
No, that's it.
All right. And what's your, as we leave DI, what should people know about DI, RODI? What's your parting words for that?
I know they're a little intimidating, but with all things that we put on an aquarium, it's not fine to just get something and throw it on there. Unfortunately, you need to, just like a Neptune Apex, like you and I talk about. I'm not saying you need to become the world's expert, but if you just buy an RODI unit and throw it on your tap, like you gotta learn how it works and how it can go wrong and how you maintain it, because it might have been great when you first bought it. 2 years down the road, you hadn't changed shit on it. It's making shit water and defeating the whole purpose. You're not making filtered water. You're just upping your water bill for no reason. Learn what it's doing and stay on top of it.
I was messing with my stuff the other day, and my stuff's all in metal cabinets now, right? So I bought a bunch of magnetic whiteboards.
Mm-hmm.
Just little ones, 4 by 12 inches. And I put them on the doors. And now every time I do anything, I just write it down right there. So it's awesome. So it's like all my DI changes, I see when I've changed it. So I can start looking at it. And so if something goofy happens, I know I haven't been doing it enough. Or same with adding caulk. I
do a thing. I keep a little notepad by my clients' RODI units. And when I let them run for a while, I take my 3 TDS.
You write them down?
I write 1, 2, 3, and I say that. So I can just glance at it and watch as it's, and that'll help me. I could ignore this crap and just be selling them more DI, but I like to run a tight ship as far as that goes. So I stay on top of their units.
That information also can become just as useful as you were talking before about the heater logs on the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, wait, why, we've been the DI coming out has been this, and that, the water, the TDS has been X, and X, and now it's Y. Okay, I better look at something, right? So, and that's what I've got it for. And then like on all of my dose pumps on the cartridges, the replaceable one, I write the date of when it goes into use.
Yeah.
And I got some that have been online for 4 years. Because, they're dosing, 60 mil a day. So they're not getting any, and then the ones that are dosing, at the max, 114,000 mil a day, I change at least once a year because they start leaking and weird stuff happens.
That's one other quick thing I like to do on that notepad is because when I put a brand new membrane in there, like I usually won't do it like the first day. I'll wait till I'm to the client next because there's weird stuff when you put in a brand new membrane. You got to
You got to
see.
flush it and season it.
Yeah. So next time I'm there, I will let it run for like 30 minutes or so I get a good, believable reading on it. So I want to say like, hey, once this unit's been running for a while, when it's really new, it's given me like 6 TDS that it's sending to the DI. So I also want to look at that like way down the road. It's like, oh, when I first put this thing in, it was giving me 6 TDS, but now it's crept up into the teens. Like now it's time to look at, and it's crazy because when you get your tap water, let's say your tap water is generally 200 TDS. Seasonally, people's TDS changes.
Yeah, it could jump up
Because
to 350 in the fall when they change reservoirs or when the rains come.
And there's some municipalities that will like draw from a lake, and then when the seasons change, lakes turn upside down and it does something weird. And then other municipalities will pull from a lake part of the year and then pull from groundwater some of the year. So
Yep.
your TDS goes, it's all
And
over.
sometimes they'll
Initial
just
TDS.
change completely and you won't know. So I'm saying write the stuff down, but write it in a way that makes it easy for you. I used to do it all in one single spreadsheet, and now I'm just writing it down at the point because
Yeah.
that's what's working for me now. But whatever you can do to keep any of that data, keep the data.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll have to check back with Farhad and see if he finds out what the well. It sounds like his membrane needs some attention.
Yeah. No, but it was funny though because I wrote all this down and then I felt he was super appreciative, but that's kind of a me thing too. I always feel the need to like really explain myself even when I repeat myself. But
Yeah.
I felt like, man, I wanted like other people to have this information that I knew. So I just went into the Discord and just did this massive diatribe.
Yeah.
And then he was happy with that too, because he was like, oh, now, I broke it down into simple talk. And he was like, now I understand what the thing is doing. Hey, we have a correction.
Tell us about the correction.
So on episode 139, I was talking, you were wearing an anglerfish hat, and you and me were joking about if I was a little fish and you swallowed me. And I called the sphincter a duodenum above your stomach. And Owen Lee 7180 said it's called a pyloric sphincter, not a duodenum.
Yeah. So we were wrong.
We want to be right.
The duodenum's on the other side. The duodenum
Know your
goes into
sphincters.
know your sphincters with Rich and Ben.
When I was a kid, I used to say duodenum.
Duodenum.
Yeah.
It's such a great word, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Gordon is taking me to task. I think it's on the same episode. He says, Richard, there's a difference between what you recommend and what you actually do. What the fuck, Jonathan? I thought we were friends. It would appear that you recommend repetitively that everyone has all of the pumps being controlled by a singular controller. We're talking about flow. And I've got tomorrow morning, actually, I've got a consult about flow. I think I'm going to have to do a lot of flow work to be able to show it in a video because a lot of people seem to have a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding of flow and how it works. But anyway, Jonathan's point being that you recommend people have a single point of failure for controlling the flow in your tank, but then you also have other pumps doing their own things. I try to always have some circulation gas exchange that will not fail if, for example, an EB832 fails, right? So we're just talking about backups for your backups or how much risk are you willing to take for one device? So he's right, but he's also wrong. So fuck you. We're talking about two different things there. And this is, the problem with conversation is, this is not a thought out article where I am going to, run down every rabbit hole that could be possible. So talking about best practices, yes, best practices seem to indicate that you want at least one flow device that is not on your controller and is on a different circuit from your other stuff, right? So it doesn't make, you can't just put it, well, you can, but it's another level of caring, right? if you're worried the EB832 might die, so you put your other flow on not the EB832, that's great, unless you put them on the same circuit, because if that circuit goes down, the EB832 goes down, and your one that's not controlled by the EB832 goes on. So it's best to have it split through circuits. But how far down this road are you going, right? You could, you know, every single piece of equipment should be on its own EcoFlow device in case something happens, so it keeps running. So you do have to make that decision, and it's two different conversations. So there's disaster mitigation and how far you're willing to go, and then there's discussion about flow and how to make your flow go. So for me, the best general flow is when everything is on one device, so I can control the flow when I want to control the flow. I can have it all interact and turn off and stuff in ways that I want it to maximize the flow that I'm looking for. You know, do I have something on its own circuit as well? I have a couple little things on their own circuit, but you know, if the power all goes out, it's all goofy anyway. So my point is that I'm a, what's that called? A hypocrite. Of course I'm a hypocrite, because we can't cover everything on every discussion. So I think there's really two different conversations, and sometimes we sacrifice one conversation because the focus of the conversation is the other part of the conversation. So yeah, you've got to keep it all in mind all the time. And when we parse it out, so we're talking about one aspect, then you also have to look at it in the grander scheme.
I see what you're saying, because like your emergency circulation does not need to be elaborate. It could just be one stupid pump just making sure stuff moved around.
Right. Now, I used to have my main return be on its own circuit, but now when something happens, I want that to be on the battery. Right. And so I can only have X amount of things on the battery. And the way I do it is I have some stuff on the battery and some stuff on the EB832. I'm getting more and more likely to put it all together for circulation onto the EB32 and take the risk that that's going to go down and something bad could happen. You know, the way to do it might be relayed, but then the EB832 could do something to the relay too. So it's all how far you want to go.
Just like in the beginning, the relay could pop itself off.
Exactly. So everything's a risk, and you just have to decide.
The whole return pump on on some sort of backup, it does make me Sanjay's tank makes me think, because if you know the way you put your tank together, if it drops a lot when you turn it off, that was part of his deal, right? Because his growth is so intense, there was a lot of shit that died up there and mucked the tank.
Yeah. So I'm now with DC pumps as returns. I am into the idea of you want your return on a backup. So I run a Siche, and it also is run by the Apex. So when power goes out, the flow goes down.
Yeah, that makes sense,
right?
too.
So I think it goes to like 60% or 70% or something like that. And
that's a good consideration too. You don't, it doesn't need to go its regular velocity to conserve electricity. You just want it to come over the overflow.
Yeah. So it saves me about 10 or 20 watts, which, you know, it's great. And the difference between the Siche at full and the, you know, the Fluval at full is about 50 watts. So I'm saving about 50 watts.
Well, that's time, and time is what you need in an emergency.
Yeah. So that's our show. Thank you all for listening. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, saltwateraquarium.com,
powered by PolypLab,
and Champion Lighting and Supply. And Beefers, thank you for being you.
That never happened, Richard.
Okay.
I wonder. Okay, look, it's just you and me now. Richard is going to the bathroom. So hopefully this is number one, because if this is number two, we're here for a little bit. Because can you imagine we're sitting here recording Reef Beef and Richard just has to drop a deuce, like, but I've been to Richard's house several times, so I know where this room is right here. And guess what, folks? The bathroom is not very far away. So I guess what I'm saying, I'm hoping it's number one, but even if it's number two, it shouldn't take that long. But I don't know how long I can, hold this conversation if he's doing a number two. Like eventually I'll run out of material, I'll run out of things to talk about. And if he's really trying to push a log jam through, so to speak, then this could take us a while. I might have to start doing like mime, start miming. I don't think I'm a very good mime though.
I'm sure there's more, but I'm tired and lazy.
Oh, here,
What?
write this down. I do have a thing.
Okay, I got a pen. And don't fuck up the show this time.
Yeah. Because I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I could tell like jokes, but no one wants to hear those jokes. So I'm assuming it's probably just a number one. But I think it would be bashful to tell me if it was a number one or number two. Because, I mean, a number one's no big deal, but when you poop, it's very vulnerable. And a lot of people don't like to feel vulnerable. So if they're doing a poop, they'll just tell you it's a number one. They won't even say that you're pooping. Because essentially, you don't really want people to know that you're vulnerable. And if there's people out there listening to you that want to hit you with a stick and hurt you and harm you, they're waiting for a moment where you're vulnerable. And taking a number two is definitely a super vulnerable moment. And your enemies will often take advantage of that moment and hit you with a stick while you're pooping. Fucking God.
What the fuck happened to your head?
Someone took a scissors to me and held me down.
What the hell? You're no longer Jesus.
What the fuck is going on?
Your power is gone, Samson.
I am Samsonless. Delilah stole my hair.
Delilah stole your fucking hair.
Hey there,
Look better
Delilah.
than. Look at me. I look like a fucking crazy man.
It looks like you were the winner at a oh shit. Yeah, it is recording. Because we about to say some crazy shit. No, I said it looks like you won at a breakdancing competition.
I did.
There's always a silver lining, Richard.
Is it silver?
But then again, I think most people poop inside of their house or someone else's house. But I just want to leave you with that thought. You should think about that if you're pooping in a forest or in the middle of a city. Just keep as they say, you keep your head on a swivel, because that's going to be the highest percentage of when your enemies or even just a passing stranger might see you taking a dump and then want to hit you with a stick or a bat or some other type of object.
This is the Reef Beef Podcast. At the Reef Beef Podcast, we talk like we talk after a trade show or a performance or after a conference, with joy and exuberance. And sometimes that leads us to say words that are outside of what you would hear at a conservative church. Not like a progressive church. You could hear anything there, but at a conservative church, if we do that, just be warned, we're not going to stop doing it, because this is stupid. This is so bad.
But it can be very vulnerable pooping. But I'm sure it's just a number one. But okay, let's examine this. His bathroom is like 10 feet away. And if it was a number one, I think he would be back here already. I don't know. We're recording, so, and I'm sitting here bullshitting, so maybe I'm not doing a good job of keeping track of time. But I feel like he could have pissed by now. So if he's actually in there working on a log jam, that he's vulnerable right now. And I know, the fans of our show, you love Ben, you love Richard. Right now, Richard's very vulnerable, and we need to protect him. So, if we can get some beefers over to his house and just sort of watch his back make sure no one hits him with a stick or a blackjack. You know, those leather things filled with lead.
Ah,
Devo.
the worst Devo hat ever.
Yes.
Anyway, I got too much going on my desk, as you can fucking tell.
It's deskalicious.
There's so much going on here.
It's meat-alicious.
Meat-alicious.
Wait. This reminds me of an old episode we have. You mean crumble like a mummy?
Yes. I do mean crumble like a mummy.
See,
You-
these crumbling mummies weren't just from the a figment of my imagination from the 80s or the Mandela effect. I know I saw crumbling mummies
There were crumbling mummies.
in movies like Indiana Jones. He touched a lot of crumbling mummies.
Well, in the Mummy they did.
Yeah, in the mummy. Crumbling
Yeah.
mummies in the mummy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking us back to that.
You're welcome.
Um,
Richard's over there pooping and someone can just knock him out. Just knock him right out.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, dude, you'll see. You'll see.
No one will see.
They will see. Either that or Snowman will look at me talking for 5 minutes about nonsense and just it'll end up on the editing floor.